What if some of the most important places on Earth are hiding doors that were never meant to be opened? Not locked for protection, not sealed by time, but deliberately closed because whatever lies behind them could change what we think we know. Here is what most people never question. We assume that history is complete, that the world has been explored, documented, and understood. But scattered across the planet are places where that assumption breaks down. Doors that remain sealed, not because they cannot be opened, but because no one is allowed to try. From ancient monuments to modern facilities, these locations share one thing in common: restricted access and unanswered questions. And once you start looking closer, a pattern begins to emerge, not of discovery, but of silence, not of curiosity, but of control. A pattern that suggests something important is still being hidden from view. Area 51's sealed vault. For decades, deep inside the Nevada desert, there has been a door that nobody outside a select few has ever seen open. Not once, not officially. And according to those who work nearby, whatever sits behind it was never meant to be exposed.
There's a vault beneath Area 51, deeper than S4, deeper than any known level.
The facility itself already operates under extreme secrecy. Area 51 is not just restricted, it is isolated, monitored, and controlled at every level imaginable. Armed patrols move constantly, and surveillance stretches far beyond the visible perimeter. Getting close is nearly impossible. Getting inside is something else entirely, but this door is different. It is not part of the visible base, not near any runway, and not connected to any known structure. It is built directly into the mountain, cut into solid rock with precision that feels deliberate. The surface is reinforced and seamless, with no markings, no labels, and no indication of what lies beyond it. Former personnel have described the routes leading to it. Convoys moving at night, vehicles without markings, always escorted and silent. What they carried was never discussed, and what they delivered was never recorded in any public system. After crossing that threshold, the trail simply ends. That is where the pattern breaks. Military installations depend on constant movement. Equipment goes in, data comes out, systems are tested, and results are documented. But here, the flow moves in only one direction. Nothing returns. Not equipment, not personnel, not even explanations. The system feels closed by design, not by accident. Some believe it is advanced technology, too sensitive to reveal. Others think it is experimental or unstable, but those theories struggle to explain one detail. According to one account, the door does not lead to a single chamber. It leads to another barrier inside, deeper underground. A second door, heavier, more secure. A door behind a door, which suggests something more unsettling. This is not just storage. It is layered containment, built to ensure that whatever is inside stays there, no matter what happens outside. The forbidden chamber of the Great Pyramid. For over 4,000 years, the Great Pyramid of Giza has stood as one of the most studied structures on Earth. Every corridor mapped, every chamber documented, or at least that is what we were told. Because in 2015, something changed. Researchers began scanning the pyramid using advanced imaging technology designed to detect hidden spaces without damaging the structure. It was precise, controlled, and unlike anything used before on this scale. What they found should have changed everything.
This morning, a new discovery inside the Great Pyramid of Giza. For the first time, a look inside, a precise analysis.
A massive void hidden deep inside the pyramid. Not a crack or structural gap, but a space large enough to be considered a chamber. It stretched above the Grand Gallery in an area long believed to be solid stone. The scans were repeated multiple times. Independent teams confirmed the results. The data remained consistent. There was something inside that had never been accessed, and yet nothing followed. No excavation. No robotic probe, no controlled entry. That is where the story begins to feel incomplete. This was not a minor anomaly. It was one of the most significant discoveries in modern archaeology.
This discovery, in my opinion, is the most important discovery on the 21st century.
Located inside the most famous structure ever built. The official response focused on preservation. The risk of damaging the pyramid was too high. Any attempt to enter the void could destabilize surrounding chambers. Those concerns were reasonable, But they were not the only explanation. Because modern technology allows minimal intrusion, small probes can capture images without causing structural harm. Methods that have been used in other ancient sites. Here, they were not approved, which raises a deeper question. What if the hesitation is not about physical risk, but historical consequence? Because opening that chamber could reveal something unexpected. Evidence, records, proof. And that possibility carries weight. Without access, the chamber remains a confirmed mystery, a space proven to exist, yet deliberately left unexplored, a discovery acknowledged but held at a distance, as if the answers inside are more dangerous than the questions themselves. The locked door in Chernobyl's Reactor 4. When the explosion tore through the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in 1986, it created one of the most dangerous environments on Earth. Radiation levels that could kill within minutes. The disaster reshaped everything. Entire towns were abandoned. Forests turned silent. A zone of exclusion was carved out around the ruins, sealed off and left to decay. But deep inside Reactor 4, something remained untouched. A door, not destroyed, not blown apart, sealed. At first, it was treated as part of the containment effort, a barrier to isolate dangerous material and prevent further exposure. Engineers reinforced the structure, adding layers of protection over time. But as years passed, something did not behave as expected. Radiation levels behind the door did not simply fade, they changed. Sensors recorded fluctuations that did not follow normal decay patterns. Sudden spikes, brief drops, irregular readings that could not be easily explained. It was inconsistent, unpredictable, because nuclear material follows known rules. It decays in measurable ways. What they observed here did not match those models. Some believed it was residual fuel. Others suggested unstable debris trapped inside. But none of the explanations fully accounted for the behavior, which led to a decision. The door would remain closed, permanently. No further attempts would be made to access what lay behind it. Not with personnel, not with machines. That hesitation is difficult to ignore, because modern technology allows exploration in environments far more hostile than this. Yet here, inside a known structure, access stopped completely. That suggests something beyond simple danger. It suggests uncertainty. Some workers described strict boundaries around certain areas, sections marked off without explanation, routes never taken. No one pushed further, because pushing further meant exposure, not just to radiation, but to something unknown. The door is still there, still sealed, still untouched, a barrier inside one of the most contaminated sites on Earth. Not because it cannot be opened, but because no one is willing to risk what might happen if it is. The secret vault beneath the Vatican. Beneath the city of Vatican City lies one of the most restricted archives in the world. Miles of shelves, documents spanning over 1,000 years. The Vatican Apostolic Archive is often described as a treasure of history. Letters from kings, records of trials, and documents that shaped entire civilizations are stored deep below the surface. Access is granted to only a small number of scholars, each carefully selected and monitored during their time inside. But even they do not see everything, because some sections are sealed, not temporarily, permanently. Researchers who have worked within the archive describe a system that feels incomplete. Catalogs reference documents that cannot be found. Entries lead to doors that remain locked. Some records simply end without explanation, as if entire sections were removed or deliberately concealed. The official explanation is preservation. Certain materials are too fragile to handle, too valuable to risk exposure, or too sensitive for public release. Those reasons sound reasonable on the surface, but they do not explain the full picture. Because preservation does not require secrecy at this scale. It does not explain restricted rooms with no catalog entries. It does not explain why some documents are acknowledged, but never shown to anyone outside a closed circle. That is where the questions begin. Historians have speculated about what might be hidden behind those sealed doors. Early versions of religious texts, private correspondence that contradicts accepted narratives, accounts of events that were never meant to become public knowledge, possibilities that challenge established history. And that possibility carries weight, Because this archive is more than a collection of documents. It is a record of power. Decisions made across centuries about what is preserved and what is withheld from the world. Some believe the sealed sections contain information that could reshape how history is understood. Others believe they protect truths considered too disruptive to release. But without access, those ideas remain untested, locked behind doors that continue to remain closed. The door in the Antarctic ice. At the southernmost point of the planet lies Antarctica, a land of extreme cold, isolation, and secrets buried beneath miles of ice. It is the most remote continent on Earth. There are no permanent cities and no civilian population. Only research stations exist, scattered across a frozen landscape that remains largely untouched. Conditions are extreme, and survival requires careful planning and constant support. And yet, despite its isolation, Antarctica is heavily monitored. Satellites pass overhead, mapping the terrain in detail. Scientific teams study climate patterns in subglacial lakes hidden beneath the ice. At least, that is what is publicly known, because over the years, certain satellite images have surfaced that do not fit that pattern. Unusual formations appearing within the ice, shapes that seem structured, almost symmetrical, standing out against an otherwise chaotic natural landscape. Most are dismissed quickly: natural ice shifts, geological formations shaped by pressure and time, explanations that sound reasonable and rarely questioned. But one image refused to disappear. It showed a formation resembling a massive doorway embedded in a mountain ridge. The edges appeared sharp, the alignment unusually precise. It did not resemble typical erosion patterns. It looked deliberate. When the image first circulated, it drew attention from researchers and independent analysts. They examined the proportions, shadows, and scale. Some argued it was a natural anomaly. Others were not convinced. Then the attention faded. The coordinates became difficult to verify. Discussions were removed or buried. Official sources offered a simple explanation, describing it as a natural feature shaped by wind and ice. But that explanation did not settle the questions, because those who studied the original data noticed inconsistencies. The symmetry did not match surrounding terrain, and one detail stands out. No confirmed expedition has ever been recorded approaching that exact location. In a continent built for exploration, one site remains untouched, as if reaching it is not encouraged. That absence feels intentional, because if the structure is what it appears to be, opening it would raise questions far beyond geography. The sealed room in the Taj Mahal. The Taj Mahal is known as a symbol of love, a masterpiece of architecture, one of the most visited landmarks on Earth. Millions walk through its marble halls each year, following the same paths, capturing the same views, and admiring the symmetry preserved for centuries. Every arch is measured, every surface studied. It feels complete, as if nothing has been left undiscovered. But that is not entirely true. Beneath the main platform, there are corridors that remain sealed, long rows of doors built into the lower structure, locked and inaccessible to the public. Visitors are never allowed near them, and even many officials have limited knowledge of what lies beyond. That is where the uncertainty begins, because early historical records describe more rooms than are currently visible. Accounts mention passageways and chambers that do not appear on modern architectural plans, sections that seem deliberately concealed over time. The official explanation is simple. These rooms are unused storage areas, closed off to protect the structure and prevent damage. But that explanation leaves gaps, because if the rooms contain nothing significant, opening them under controlled conditions would resolve speculation. A limited inspection would confirm their purpose. Yet, every request has been denied, repeatedly and without exception. Historians and researchers have proposed careful methods to study the sealed areas: non-invasive scans, restricted access under supervision. Each proposal dismissed, which raises a deeper question. What justifies keeping these spaces permanently closed? Some believe the chambers may contain earlier architectural layers, possibly predating the current structure. Others suggest hidden inscriptions or modifications that do not align with the accepted narrative. Possibilities that challenge history itself. Because the Taj Mahal is more than a monument. It represents a story preserved for generations. If new evidence emerged, it could change that story. For now, the doors remain sealed, the corridors remain silent, and whatever exists behind those walls, well, continues to wait. Each of these doors represents more than a physical barrier. They represent decisions. Moments where someone, somewhere, chose not to open something, or opened it once, and decided it should never happen again. That choice leaves a gap in our understanding, a space where answers should exist, but do not. And over time, those gaps become something else entirely. They become controlled mysteries, because when access is restricted, the truth does not disappear. It waits. It remains just out of reach, preserved behind layers of stone, steel, or silence. The real question is not whether these doors can be opened. It is why they remain closed, even now. And if one of them were finally opened, what would we learn that we were never supposed to know? And more importantly, who made the decision to keep it that way? If you want to uncover the stories hidden behind the world's most forbidden places, subscribe now.